At 74, Richard Thomas finally breaks his silence about Ellen Corby, and what he reveals will leave you speechless. For decades, fans of the Waltons have wondered what really went on behind the scenes, especially between Richard Thomas and his beloved co-star Ellen Corby, who played Grandma Walton. Now at 74, Thomas is finally opening up, and his heartfelt truth is more touching than anyone expected. Long before he became the face of John Boy Walton, Richard Thomas was immersed in the world of art and performance. Born on June 13, 1951, in New York City, he was destined for the stage. His parents, Barbara and Richard S. Thomas, were dancers with the New York City Ballet and founders of the New York School of Ballet, surrounding him with creativity from day one. Growing up in this artistic haven, Thomas absorbed the rhythms of classical music, the passion of theater, and the discipline of dance. It was clear early on that he was not an ordinary child. His emotional depth and magnetic presence made him stand out. At just 7 years old, he lit up the Broadway stage in Sunrise at Campobello, holding his own among veteran performers. By the early 1960s, he was already a familiar face in daytime television, appearing in soap operas like A Flame in the Wind and The Edge of Night. But it was his starring role in The Homecoming, the 1971 Christmas special that served as a pilot for the Waltons, that would change his life forever. When the series premiered in 1972, Thomas became a household name as John Boy, the sensitive, idealistic writer whose voice narrated the heart and soul of a struggling but loving Depression-era family. And behind it all, an unforgettable bond was forming, one that he now, finally, reveals in full. From the moment Richard Thomas stepped onto the screen as the thoughtful, aspiring writer in the Waltons, audiences didn't just see a character, they saw a reflection of the actor himself. His portrayal of John Boy Walton struck a deep emotional chord across generations, not only for its authenticity, but because it mirrored Thomas's own intellectual curiosity and gentle introspection. That powerful connection earned him an Emmy Award in 1973 for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series, along with nominations for both the Golden Globe and additional Emmys. Even after he left the series in 1977 to explore other creative opportunities, the shadow of John Boy followed him. Not as a burden, but as a badge of honor that defined a cultural era. Yet Richard Thomas didn't let that iconic role confine him. Instead, he expanded his artistry, proving his range in a wide spectrum of television, film, and stage performances. From his stirring role in All Quiet on the Western Front 1979 to his chilling portrayal of adult Bill Denbrough in Stephen King's It 1990, Thomas continuously challenged himself with emotionally rich and diverse characters. His love for live performance brought him to the stage time and time again, where he left unforgettable marks in Richard II, Hamlet, The Crucible, and more. Respected as much for his humility and professionalism as for his talent, Thomas built a career on integrity, grace, and artistic excellence, a rarity among child stars. With 5 children and a commitment to family that rivals his dedication to acting, Richard Thomas continues to inspire, both on screen and off. Whether in Broadway hits like 12 Angry Men or television dramas like Roots: The Next Generations, he brings maturity, depth, and humanity to every role, proving that for him, the spotlight was never about fame, but about truth. While many still remember him fondly as the earnest John Boy Walton, Thomas has reinvented himself time and again, proving that age only sharpens his craft. Whether portraying a calculating billionaire in Billions, or stepping into the shoes of Atticus Finch on a national tour of To Kill a Mockingbird, he has captivated new generations who never watched The Waltons. In December 2018, he embraced the timeless role of Ebenezer Scrooge in a musical Christmas Carol, produced by Pittsburgh's Civic Light Opera. The performance wasn't just a holiday event, it became a highlight of the Pittsburgh theater season. Taking on the emotionally demanding role of Scrooge, Thomas brought a layered interpretation filled with bitterness, remorse, and, ultimately, redemptive warmth. His ability to merge dramatic gravitas with musical storytelling reminded critics and fans alike of his remarkable stage presence. Fast forward to February 2021, and Thomas took a darker turn in the Amazon Prime thriller, Tell Me Your Secrets. As Bod Lord in Episode 5, his screen time may have been brief, but his impact was unforgettable. With quiet menace and a haunting calm, he injected tension and complexity into the story, proving once more that he doesn't need the spotlight to shine. Then in January 2022, he stunned audiences yet again, this time in Ozark. As Nathan Davis, the stern, devout father of Wendy Bird, Thomas appeared in 3 powerful episodes of the final season. His scenes opposite Laura Linney were riveting, thick with emotional tension and buried family trauma. With a performance both unsettling and deeply human, Thomas cemented his place as a formidable presence in today's prestige television landscape. When most actors slow down with age, Richard Thomas seems to only be picking up steam, grabbing roles that not only challenge him but elevate the very productions he's in. In April 2022, Thomas stepped into the formidable shoes of Atticus Finch for the national Broadway tour of To Kill a Mockingbird, and what followed was a masterclass in stage performance. The role required far more than just presence. It demanded intellectual depth, emotional nuance, and a quiet strength. Aaron Sorkin's adaptation of Harper Lee's classic tale of justice in the segregated South found its moral center in Thomas's deeply resonant portrayal. Critics and audiences alike were moved by his performance, which brought new dimension to a character long associated with Gregory Peck's iconic film portrayal. Night after night, Thomas held audiences spellbound, reminding them of the power of decency, courage, and truth in a world desperately in need of all 3. The role became not just another credit in his career, but a defining moment in his theatrical journey. And he didn't stop there. In 2024, Thomas stepped into yet another iconic American play, Our Town by Thornton Wilder. This time as Professor Webb, the thoughtful father of Emily and an observer of the rhythms of small-town life, Thomas brought gentle authority and introspection to the stage. Sharing the spotlight with Jim Parsons and Katie Holmes, his performance underscored his ability to blend seamlessly into a high-caliber ensemble while still leaving an unforgettable impression. But his impact hasn't been limited to the stage. By January 2023, Richard Thomas had already narrated more than 340 audiobooks on Audible, spanning genres from literary fiction and memoir to thriller and history. His voice, as compelling as his presence on stage or screen, has made him a staple in the audiobook world, bringing stories to life with clarity, emotion, and that unmistakable gravitas only he can deliver. Whether on stage, in a studio, or forever etched in the memories of TV audiences as John Boy Walton, Richard Thomas continues to prove that true talent doesn't fade. It evolves. What happens when a beloved television icon becomes the voice behind your favorite audiobook? Richard Thomas, best known for his role as John Boy on The Waltons, has quietly become a standout in the world of narration. His voice praised for its warmth, emotional depth, and engaging rhythm. But behind the microphone and the spotlight lies a story just as compelling. A life deeply rooted in love, fatherhood, and resilience. Thomas's work as a narrator has captivated countless listeners, showcasing his remarkable ability to bring stories to life with sincerity and charm. Yet this passion for storytelling isn't confined to scripts and studios. It mirrors the personal chapters of his own life, filled with both joy and heartache. At the height of his early fame in 1975, Thomas married Alma Gonzalez, a dancer whose artistic spirit matched his own. Their marriage was a media sensation, the perfect union of 2 creative souls. Just a year later, their love story expanded with the birth of their son, Richard Francisco, a moment Thomas often described as life-changing. Fatherhood, he said, grounded him and added authenticity to his portrayal of John Boy. Then in 1981, life surprised them with the arrival of triplet daughters, Par, Barbara, and Gwyneth. Overnight, Thomas went from father of one to a full house, navigating the beautiful chaos with humor and heart. Despite the demands of his career, he remained deeply involved at home, embodying the very family values he once portrayed on screen. Although his marriage to Gonzalez ended in 1993, their mutual commitment to co-parenting kept the family bond strong. And when love returned the following year, it was in the form of Georgiana Bischoff, an art dealer from Santa Fe. Their intimate wedding in 1994 marked not just a new chapter for Thomas, but the beginning of a partnership built on shared passions, mutual respect, and quiet strength. Through every high and low, Richard Thomas's life reads like the stories he narrates, honest, heartfelt, and deeply human. Long after the bright lights of Hollywood first cast their glow on Richard Thomas, it was a quieter, more personal milestone that truly transformed his life. The year was 1996, and the seasoned actor, beloved by millions as John Boy Walton, welcomed a son, Montana James Thomas, with his wife, Georgiana Bischoff. This moment didn't just mark the birth of a child, it signaled a rebirth for Thomas himself. Now older, wiser, and far more grounded, Thomas embraced fatherhood with a kind of joy and gratitude that only comes with time. It was like discovering a new purpose, he later reflected, and it didn't stop there. With open arms and a full heart, he adopted Georgiana's 2 daughters from her previous marriages, forming a blended family that became his proudest legacy. Rooted in love, respect, and unity, Thomas poured his thoughtful and nurturing nature into making their household feel whole, never divided by biology. For him, family wasn't about bloodlines, but about showing up with consistency, patience, and love. Living in New York City, the couple created a life where art, family, and culture could all flourish. The vibrancy of the city mirrored the richness of their bond, a partnership built not just on romance, but resilience. Now in his 70s, Richard Thomas has been reflecting more deeply on the people who shaped him, including one figure who stood out profoundly in his youth: Ellen Corby. She wasn't just Grandma Esther Walton on screen, she was in many ways his guide, protector, and surrogate grandmother when he needed it most. And for the first time in decades, he's sharing the truth about their remarkable relationship. He never said it out loud, until now. For years, Richard Thomas kept his deepest feelings about Ellen Corby tucked away, perhaps out of humility, or maybe because the bond they shared was too sacred for casual conversation. But as time has passed and reflection deepened, Thomas now feels a quiet urgency to speak the truth. She changed his life. Corby, best known to millions as Grandma Walton, wasn't just a co-star to young Thomas. She was a mentor, a quiet force of wisdom and dignity who shaped his journey both on and off screen. She never treated us like kids, Thomas recalled. She treated us like actors, like equals. And that meant everything. With an old-world grace that mirrored her on-screen persona, Corby guided the younger cast members not with fanfare, but with meaningful glances, a steady hand on the shoulder, and whispered advice that cut straight to the emotional heart of a scene. She had this quiet strength, Thomas said, and when she told you you'd done well, you knew it mattered. Ellen Corby wasn't just Grandma Walton. She was the soul of the show, and a guiding light behind the scenes. Richard Thomas's tribute reminds us that the bonds formed off-camera can be just as powerful as the ones we see on screen. If her quiet strength and timeless grace touched your heart too, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories from the people who shaped television history. And as always, thank you for watching.